It's been said that it is easier to lie to people than it is to then convince those people that they've actually been lied to. But I've got the job of trying to demonstrate to you all that you've been lied to, because these people that present this to you lied to you. Okay, so we have the experts of Formula One, the sports commentators, the sports broadcasters, and they have lied to you. And I'm going to prove that they've lied to you, and there'll be still people that won't believe me. But they lied to you because they were part of this fraud. I'm just going to play you this. So, in the aftermath of Abu Dhabi, the drivers, the former world champions like Hill, Rosberg, Button, they will have all said the same thing. I might even do a video showing what they said as well. But this is Crofty, and I'll show you what Brundle said. Listen to this.
But there was no red flag. And if we go back to our coverage on Sky Sports F1 over the weekend, Michael Massey told Karun Chandok, after we speculated about a red flag, because we've seen Kimi Raikkonen crash at turn 14, that there would be no red flag for crashes at turn 14. So was that his mindset going into the final race? Now, that sounds like I'm being hypercritical over the race.
So that's Michael Massey telling Karun Chandok before the race that there would be no red flag. Now, I've already stated in another video that you can't determine that before you've even seen an incident unfold, because it might be necessary for you to throw a red flag. So that's a rather bizarre conversation to even be happening. It's not even a question that you should be asking. So the fact that they're broadcasting, oh, we asked him, would he throw a red flag if there was a crash at that corner? And he said no. Well, you would know that you can't even predict that. You can't. That's a foolish question. You wouldn't do that, because until you saw what the consequence of the situation was, you wouldn't know how to deal with it. If that track was blocked, you'd have to red flag it. If somebody was severely injured and needed medical attention on the scene, you'd red flag it. So you couldn't say, oh, doesn't matter what happens, I'm not going to red flag it. No, if the situation dictates that a red flag is necessary, you red flag it. So you just can't make that prediction ahead of schedule. And later in that interview, Crofty, once again, says this.
Is that people think it's a bit of a fix. It's not a fix. I think a mistake was made by Michael Massey in not throwing that red flag, but it wasn't manipulated and it wasn't a fix. But for people to feel that way, that saddens me today, because I love...
Saddens me that it was a fix and that you were paid to condition people to accept it at the time. You continue to be paid by that corrupt regime. And this interview is what you were paid for, to present validation for the fix. But once again, you're throwing in there the notion of Massey throwing the red flag.
People think it's a bit of a fix. It's not a fix. I think a mistake was made by Michael Massey in not throwing that red flag.
You think a mistake was made by Michael Massey not throwing that red flag. Right, let's see what Brundle thinks. So that was on the 13th. On the same day Brundle is interviewed. It would be terribly sad. Martin Brundle on the 2021 title being decided in court. Brundle has to say this.
What should have happened is we should have had a red flag, so that then the mess could get cleared away of the accident. Drivers could then choose their tyres, and there would have been a 3-lap shootout.
What should have happened is there should have been a red flag, says the expert of the sport, a driver for 10 years, the sports expert for 28 years. Okay, commentator, pundit, recognised expert of the sport, Martin Brundle, is what should have happened is there should have been a red flag, and then we could have had a 3-lap shootout. Let's have a look if that is in accordance with the regulations that are like this thick and like a legal document, Martin. So, Article 50 of the 2021 sporting regulations of the sport of Formula One. 50.1, so it's suspending a sprint qualifying session or a race if competitors or officials are placed in immediate physical danger by cars running on the track and the clerk of the course deems circumstances are such that the track cannot be negotiated safely, even behind the safety car, the sprint qualifying session or the race will be suspended. Should it become necessary to suspend the sprint qualifying session or the race, the clerk of the course will order red flags to be shown at all marshal posts and abort lights to be shown at the line. There you go. If competitors or officials are placed in immediate physical danger by cars running on the track and the clerk of the course deems circumstances are not such that the track cannot be negotiated safely, even behind the safety car, the sprint qualifying session or race will be suspended. Could that part of the track be negotiated safely behind that safety car? Evidently, yes, it could, because the evidence is there that it was. That is the measure by which they chose to control the safety of that incident. And it was effective. It was the right measure. It was a safety car incident. It did not tick the box. It did not meet the criteria for being a red flag situation. That is in accordance with the regulations of the sport, and yet the fluffers, the lying, corrupt bastards that are employed by the media, Sky Sports F1, the contracted media, paid to lie to you, to gaslight you, to condition you to accept the corruption, they lie saying, oh, what should have happened should have been a red flag. Michael Massey made an error by not throwing the red flag. This is what they're saying to you. When Michael Massey was asked before the event whether he would flow a red flag, Michael Massey said he wasn't going to. What's that all about? Because if competitors or officials are placed in immediate physical danger by cars running on the track and the clerk of the course deems circumstances are such that the track cannot be negotiated safely, even behind the safety car, then the sprint qualifying session or the race will be suspended, Massey. So you can predict beforehand whether or not you're going to need to throw that red flag. And you asked him that, Karun Chandok. Absolute bullshit. So, if we actually just go a little bit further down this page, we need to see if they throw a red flag, are there any procedures that need to be carried out before we go racing again? You know, because when we deploy the safety car to deal with an incident, there are a set of procedures that need to be carried out before you go racing. So if you throw a red flag, are there any procedures that you need to carry out before you go racing again? Let's have a look. Okay, these are the regulations. These tell you what you need to do before you go racing. Okay, so let's have a look here. Have I gone down a bit too far? I think I might have gone down a little bit too far. I'm not sure. There we go. 51.4. At the 2-minute point, any cars between the safety car and the leader, in addition to any cars that had been lapped by the leader at the time the sprint qualifying session or the race was suspended, will be allowed to leave the pit lane and complete a further lap without overtaking, enter the pit lane and join the line of cars behind the safety car. What's going on there then? Oh, is that the unlapping procedure that needs to be carried out prior to the resumption of racing? Because a race has been suspended, a race has been neutralised by the introduction of a red flag or a safety car, and before we resume racing, we have to carry out this procedure. And what that procedure does is get those cars in the correct race order with all the previously built up advantages nullified. But they can't tell you that. They can't tell you that. Oh, how long will they wait? Indeed, are they even going to let the lap runners through? I don't think it's mandatory, but that's normally on a wet day in Belgium on a Tuesday when we do our shopping. How much bullshit do you want to give us, Brundle? How much bullshit do you want to give us? You're lying. Absolute lies. These are regulations. These need to be carried out. Oh, but are they going to let the lap runners through? But that means Max Verstappen's got a lot to do because Lewis Hamilton will be long down the road. They'll all get blue flags, of course. This fake scenario that's not allowed to happen and hasn't been allowed to happen since the start of the 2012 season. And that Abu Dhabi was the 199th event since these regulations were reintroduced like this. Oh, but what should have happened should have been the red flag. All of its lies. All of its lies. Contracted media contracted to lie to you about a fraud, a global fraud of a sporting event where they fixed the outcome. The entire sport did. That's Formula One management, Liberty Media, the FIA, F1 TV, Sky Sports F1, clearly Red Bull, and clearly all of the F1 teams who were complicit, because not a single one of them called this out. And all were compliant and complicit when Massey resumed racing in that manner, breaking the rules to set up that one lap shootout. So, share this to every fan of the sport of Formula One that you know, so that they get to see that they are really watching a contrived show. They're not watching a real sport. They're watching a bunch of liars lying to them, lying to their children. These filthy, corrupt bastards need to be imprisoned for their fraud. It is a crime, a real crime. Thank you for your time.